Good morning, everyone.
What?
Morning. Have your caffeine already? Some of you are like, no. There you go, got one there. My name is Armando Lacerda. I'm this guy here. I work for Design Minds down in San Francisco. I'm a consultant. I focus on business intelligence and cognitive services, all of this great new field that shows up, and I'm enjoying working with it a lot. I've been in the IT field for about 20 years, over 20 years. I've been a Microsoft certified trainer for 20 years. And this is my friend, George Maya.
Hi guys, good morning. I'm George Maya. I'm an IoT specialist. I'm working on IoT, starting working with IoT 4 or 5 years ago. I'm based in Brazil. We have a company over there.
I'm from Brazil too, by the way.
Yeah. I'm also an MCT and MVP on Azure. And my focus of study and work is IoT services and protocol. We are here today to talk a little bit about, not about hardware, not about software or platforms or IoT and working directly on hardware and connecting this kind of stuff. We are here today to talk a little bit about opportunities that we have in this market, opportunities that IoT can give to us as a developer or as a DBA. If it works? Yeah.
It does need its caffeine too.
Yeah, we need to. No, just to plug it on, it works fine.
Yeah, if you turn it on, it works.
It's worked fine. So, what is IoT? We heard a lot of definitions about IoT. IoT, in my vision and on the Kevin Ashton, is connected things without human interaction. So this is IoT, but we have a lot of stuff that's not maybe IoT. We have some industry connected since the 70s. We have agriculture connected a lot of years ago, and it's not the new IoT, the new opportunity. So what changes when you talk about connected things and this new market? Because if we look at this device, this is a simple pet tracker. We have a connected thing here. We have a GPS inside it, maybe a GSM or a Wi-Fi connection on that, and it sends the position. We can create a digital fence. It works very, very well, but it has a lot of opportunities on this. Maybe you can connect it, maybe you can ingest the data, maybe you can see your pet outside your home. So it's good, it works fine, but it's a simple device, like a home connected device and this kind of stuff. But we are talking about what? If you look on these two guys, what's the difference between them? We have a connected doorbell with a camera, and we have maybe some intelligence here. And this is the new opportunities that we are talking here. We can detect if there is a guy in front of our door. We can know who is in front of our door. Oh, he is my brother. We can open the door remotely from him without human interaction. And now we are doing IoT, and now we have a lot of services, a lot of APIs, a lot of things that we can use on this project. And using these guys, we can be just developers, or we can be just data analysis. We can do a service of a DBA, for example. We can be a company of software doing IoT. That's our vision about that. That's what we are doing over there in a lot of big companies, doing software, doing data analysis, doing data science, doing the intelligence of these things. Maybe sometimes without hardware. That's the idea. When we talk about starting in an architecture, we are talking sometimes when I talk about the pet tracker, we are talking about I have a thing connected directly to the cloud. And now we have talking about Microsoft, we have the IoT Edge, for example. And we can do machine learning, for example, on the edge. We can do some Azure functions on the edge. So we are talking about what? Development, software. We are talking about software putting on the edge. So I believe this is the new market that we can open our eyes. Here we have a reference architecture. I don't know how many here heard about IoT or work with IoT. So we have IP-capable devices. We have some low-power device or dumb device. And these guys over here needs connection to the cloud by a cloud gateway. Here we are talking about IoT Hub, for example, that we can send messages, ingest this message, and after that, we have the processing, the stream of data. And on this stream of data, I believe, is the intelligence of IoT. Maybe to do a fast example and a simple one, I take here a sensor, a humidity sensor, and a temperature sensor connected to a device. This device is connected to IoT Hub, so it sends maybe a small message. If you were talking about MQTT protocol, you were talking about maybe 10, 12 bytes of data sending from here. So you send here, you do a stream analytics, you can do a machine learning to take some ideas about the data, and then you can storage. So this is a simple example, but maybe this is good for talk about IoT. But when you go to an industry, for example, you didn't see this. You see something more complex because they have a software over here that they are using since 10, 20 years ago. So you have to do the integration with that. You have to do some dashboards. You have to do a lot of another stuff that is not only pick up the hardware, connect the sensors, and do it to the cloud. It's not only the IoT that the people sometimes talk about it, and you can see in a lot of papers. Here, for example, you have another service from Azure. That's the time series insights. The time series insights, you can pick up the data live on stream and produce some graphics on that. And you can produce a heat map, for example. We will show it later here in this presentation.
Yeah, like George is saying, this is a regular kind of package you get from a device, regular device, right? A regular IoT device. So they keep sending these messages, and in the past it used to be to the Event Hub, but now it's the IoT Hub, right?
Yeah.
We get it to the IoT Hub, and the opportunities there, what is new based on what was proposed before. I'm going to roll back a little bit here so you can see that. So this portion here, it's pretty much stable, right?
Yep.
This portion here is pretty much stable. When I was more into development like 20 years ago, and I want to work with a device, I have to write a device driver. So the opportunity for the developer there would be write a device driver. That's not the case anymore. Pretty much all of this area here is pretty much stable, and they are connected. You can get your device, either prototype or a specific one, and you find a way either to have a gateway for it or using straight the cloud gateway. The new opportunities we're talking about are in this section here, in this area here. And like George was mentioning before, when you get into this area here, for instance, this is an area that we see very few people exploring this, which is the time series. Now, this is the main pipeline. This is where the data is coming from. Your business data is coming from here. Your sensors data, your cameras, everything else, they're flowing through here, and you're doing regular analysis on them. This, the time series, which we have another slide later, is where your data about data, or metadata, right, like we say, about the device itself. So how's the heat map for the device? What's the data about the device function? You know, how's the device working? This is an area that George explored in one of his projects.
An important thing here, Armando, when we talk about hardware sending commands or hardware sending information about the sensors or actuating on some device on the edge, we are talking about protocols, hardware protocols. When we talk after this guy over here, we are talking about JSON. So if you have JSON
which is this one here,
yeah,
right?
It's easiest to us to take this data and do whatever you want. You can, for example, use an Azure Functions, you can use an API, you can use whatever you want. You can send this, routing this data for every place you want.
Yeah, and many devices, you know, the bulk of them, they work this way, right? They go by MQTT protocol.
Yeah.
They send very small data sets in JSON format to be processed. But keep in mind also there are newer devices, smarter devices that can send images, they can send picture analysis, and they can done on the edge, right? It's a new opportunity for developers to apply these things on the edge. Down in Brazil, internet is not as stable as it's here, although the internet here in the conference is not working quite well for me either.
You have problems of security, privacy. Maybe when you talk about retail, for example, you don't want to send all the data from your camera in the front door to the cloud. No, I don't want it. Maybe there is a man in the middle, pick up all the pictures here and send the data.
Suspicious. And so because of network delay between the premises and the cloud, some things have to be processed at the edge. And that's a great, great opportunity for developers. Yeah, so these are the opportunities for DBAs. What are the opportunities for the DBAs? So when this data comes in, where am I going to store this data? You know, regular answer for that is a data lake, right? Or an Azure store, talking about Microsoft platform, or MongoDB. It used to be DocumentDB, now on MongoDB. That's the very, very common approach to this. And it's fine, it works. You have a lot of opportunities in there to do custom behavior when the data arrives. But if you look around, if you search Bing the thing, you're going to see a lot of people say don't use SQL. You know, SQL Server Relational Database has a general topic. They cannot, they cannot work or take care of the workload coming from the IoT devices. That's not really true, right? There will be scenarios that will not be able to, but if you use SQL Server 2014 or 2016 capabilities like in-memory tables and controlled bandwidth protocols on the network side, they can support this and store batches into memory, and we have implemented, we have seen this being taking place. So it all depends on your budget. Usually your budget goes lower here, but you have to do afterward processes, or you can have your DBA opportunity, take advantage of your DBA opportunity over there, and do like I did last week, using moving an old project using old resources to new resource capabilities in SQL Server 2016.
And you can mix all.
Yeah, we can also mix, of course.
Yeah.
And on the development area, which is more of George's forte, how are we going to receive the information coming from the IoT Hub? The IoT Hub, which we're going to talk about a little bit more in a second, the IoT Hub will get the message from the IoT device and forward to you. So you need to have a web presence someplace to collect that. Now, regular API approach for that is I'm going to put up a web server, I'm going to put up some REST API calls where things can be delivered to, and that's going to be expensive, right?
Yeah, any important thing is when you send the data to the IoT Hub, you need after that to storage this data. You have to, because the life cycle of this message will end when someone receives it. So you have to do something.
So you have either to store it, or you can send not to a web application like I just mentioned, but you can use Azure Functions. Have you guys heard about Azure Functions already? Got a couple of developers here. Azure Functions is a very inexpensive resource in Azure to have very thin processing capabilities published and a very, very low cost that ties, like like a marriage to the IoT Hub.
Yeah, and you can do a lot of triggers over here that you can receive directly from IoT Hub. You can have an HTTP trigger. You can have a time trigger to see, let me see how many devices are not sending to the cloud. Let me see how many devices are sending this or that data. And you can do it also in IoT Hub. You can route this data to another place. So
you don't have to create an Azure function or a web API for that matter to route your IoT device messages, right? You create the function to the specific process for the specific source, and you define the routing at the IoT Hub itself.
And the costs is really, really, really low.
The overhead in there is really low. So the regular approach, which would be sending to streaming, right, for processing, like in a machine learning kind of a processing, can still be used. There are still opportunities in there. This is a traditional approach, but this one here holds a lot of new opportunities for developers, right? And one of these opportunities, for instance, is skip them all together, right? You may create your function, that's fine. You may want to get your functions batching up the data and then just do some processing and send it as a batch result to SQL or to someplace else. But another opportunity you have, and this is one that I like a lot, is the Power BI. And then you may be thinking like, hey Armando, come on, Power BI, you have to connect to a database, whatever database it is, and apply a refresh schedule, right? If you have a pro subscription, 8 refreshes a day. If you have a premium subscription, it's 48 refreshes a day, but it's not even close to what I really need for IoT monitoring. Well, Power BI, for a couple versions already, I think 3-4 months, it has been supporting streaming updates. So you, as a developer, you can use the analysis service that's in Power BI and feed data straight into Power BI. And there are limits to that. It's like 120 million rows per hour or something like that. I can't remember the real limit, but it's really high. And what you can do is create a dashboard like this one here with the feeds from the IoT and showing near real-time data to whatever you're monitoring, right? People coming into the store, or how many kilometers a car has driven someplace, and things like that. Real time, straight into Power BI. And you can customize these views using TypeScript.
Yeah.
Right? So that's pretty much it, right, George?
Yeah.
Got this one here.
This guy over here is the time series analysis that I told before. You can just plug it on the IoT Hub, and it's working. So we are acting on the streaming of data. We can see over here some graphics that we can do, but I believe there is a lot of using of this guy. This over here, I did a heat map using the data that it sends, but I want to see another thing over here is how many messages the device is sending. So I can see there is a problem over here. There is another problem over here. So this is quite simple. I can use it just plug and play, and it's very, very cheap.
Yep, like we said, this is metadata, right? It's data about the device functionality, the device, how it's working. Here's the data that the device is sending, and here's the data about the device, working hours. And like George said, we're expecting peak movement in here, peak data flow coming in there, and something happening there, and we're not getting that data.
Any additional Azure functions you need besides the IoT Hub and Power BI?
So the question is there any additional Azure functions that I need to create in order to connect the IoT Hub to Power BI, right? Nope, it's just streaming.
If you look at the IoT suite, you have some templates for industry, for locating devices and this thing. If you just create an IoT Hub with this template, you have a Power BI inside it. It's just connected, but to do the Power BI, you need the data that should be stored in any place.
Yeah, you have to create the Power BI file first.
You have to have the data.
On this case over here,
on this case over here, you don't need to do nothing. So you can see live.
For the time
series insights.
Time series insights. And again, this one here is to monitor your device life cycle, how things are working in your device.
And you can plug it on the IoT Hub and do it directly to your client, for example.
But if you want to have functions to do some processing, marshalling, whatever,
you can
have it.
PID loops?
Say that again?
Are there PID loops in there? Things like that?
No, it's straight feed inside the data set. All right? So this is it. These are the opportunities, right? I really like this slide that George put in here. Let me go back to that. So the new opportunities, they live over here, at this side here, right? The cloud gateway, which is the IoT Hub
the cloud
in here,
gateway is IoT
important,
Hub.
But the newest opportunities, the more flexible ones, they live at this side here. This is as George mentioned, this is the reference architecture. It does not hurt or will not kill you if you deviate a little bit and get a little smarter out of the box things. And he's good in doing that. All right, so we're going to hang around here for a while. If you have more questions, you can come up. And thanks for attending.